Section 0 of the Medici, Volume 1. This is a Librivox recording. All Librivox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit librivox.org. Recording by Adrian Stevens. The Medici, Volume 1, by G. F. Young. Section 0. Preface and Prologue. Preface. There are, in English, several histories of 3 or 4 of the more important members of the Medici family, but there is none, either in Italian or English, of that family as a whole, the history of no less than 9 out of 13 generations having remained hitherto unwritten. The history of the Medici is a deeply interesting story, while, beside its intrinsic interest, it helps us to acquire much knowledge about the rebirth of learning and art, about the history of Europe in perhaps its most important period, about the birth of science, and about the great collections of art possessed by Florence. For without referring largely to all these subjects, no true picture of the Medici can be given. My aim has been to write of them as a family, their rise, their course upon the mountain tops of power, and their decline and end, and to keep the parts always in subordination to the whole. It may perhaps be thought that more might have been said in the case of 1 or 2 members of the family, but to have gone into greater detail regarding individuals would have had the effect of obscuring the general view, besides making the book far too long. This history takes a somewhat different view of the Medici from that which has hitherto generally obtained. It is a strange fact that in their case the violent partisanship which swayed the historians of their time has been carried on into our own, and writers about them, whether belonging to their age or ours, are banded into 2 furiously opposing camps, making it very difficult to arrive at a true estimate. Those on the one side can see no faults, and give a picture which one feels to be untrue to life by reason of its successive eulogy, while to those on the other the name of Medici appears to act like an intoxicant, rendering them incapable of seeing what the very facts recorded by themselves demonstrate, and making even facts telling strongly in favour of those concerned appear to such writers only to show a subtle policy towards a nefarious end. And it is those of the latter type who have been best known, and have consequently been followed by writers who, in guidebooks on the art and history of Florence, have had occasion to allude to the Medici. There have been Florentines of note, now passed away, well read in the archives of their country, who have said that if only the world at large could study those archives, it would discover that the time-honoured view of the Medici which has thus grown up was to a very large extent unjust and far from the truth, but their voices have not been generally heard. To whitewash historical characters is as great an offence to history as to traduce them, and the view to which I have gradually been led regarding the Medici has not been due to any original bias in their favour. On the contrary, I began the study entirely imbued with the time-honoured theory I have mentioned, and was only brought by degrees to a different opinion by coming to see that the admitted facts refused over and over again to square with the view of this family usually presented to us. I have therefore preferred to judge those concerned by their acknowledged deeds, rather than by comments thereon which, emanating from writers violently biassed against them, are found uniformly attributing good actions to ignoble motives, or distorting those actions until they become full of impossibilities. Avoiding any attempt to make out the Medici as either this or that, I have endeavoured, eschewing all legends, to detail simply the facts for which we have evidence. No crimes attributed to them have been omitted or slurred over. If the result is to show the Medici in a better light than hitherto has been the case, that is not due to any desire to whitewash them, but is simply the consequence of a want of any evidence for a large proportion of those crimes which have furnished the darker shades in the traditional picture of this family. I have also endeavoured to leave the facts to speak for themselves as far as possible, to narrate rather than to explain, leaving readers to form their own conclusion.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?